Welcome to the Massillon City Council meeting for Monday, December 5th, 2022. We have in attendance with us tonight the following city officials.
Mayor Kathy Kaiser Perry.
Good evening.
Safety Service Director Barb Sylvester.
Present.
Chief Deputy Auditor Stephanie Myers. Assistant Model Director Edmund Mack.
Here.
Chief Counsel Tim Carroll. Community Development Director Samantha Walters. Economic Development Director David Maley. Police Chief Jason St. Noy.
Present.
Fire Chief Matthew Heck.
Present.
Income Tax Budget Director Lori Katakides-Boron.
Present.
Is there anyone present from administration I missed? Captain Myers?
Yes.
Tim Myers?
Mike Meyer.
Right.
Captain Myers of the Massillon Police Department.
Present.
And is there anyone else? That's it, Madam President.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone in attendance with us tonight. We have some young adults from Jackson High School, obviously fulfilling these school requirements, so welcome. Under number 5 on the agenda is where the public can speak on any topic that does appear on tonight's agenda. And on number 17 is where the public can speak on any topic that did not appear on tonight's agenda. If you please mute your phones or turn them off, or 758. Thank you. Roll call.
Kramer?
Present.
Gregg?
Here.
Harvard Smith?
Here.
Vern King?
Here.
Lewis?
Present.
Lombardi?
Here.
Sloot?
Here.
Sneed?
Here.
And Beal? Here. Roll call of 9 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All present and accounted for. Councilman Lewis.
Please rise and join me in the Lord's Prayer and pledge allegiance.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Lewis. Madam Clerk, the minutes from the previous meeting transcribed and open to public viewing.
Yes, they are.
Are there any additions or corrections to be made?
No, there are not.
Thank you, and then stand approved as written. We are at number 5 on the agenda, where anyone from the audience may come forward and speak on any topic that does appear on tonight's agenda. If you wish to do so, please state your name, address, and topic you wish to discuss, and please limit your comments to 4 minutes or less. And when you're finished, sign the paper on the desk.
Can you hear me? Hi, my name is Denise Ryder, and I'm the secretary at St. John Lutheran Church. And we have a zoning issue that's on the agenda today. And if I could, our treasurer sent all of the councilmen an email today, and I just thought I would like to read that because everyone may not have had an opportunity to have read that. And his name is Keith Cleve, and he's not able to be here this evening. Dear council members, St. John Lutheran Church needs to sell the excess property north of the church building in order to fund necessary repairs to our building. This property has zero economic value as a residential property and cannot be sold as such. In reality, it is a commercial corner Instead of requesting a zone change for the entire property, we are only requesting a change on the empty northern portion. This allows the church to be a buffer for the neighbors to the south and across Wales, with the exception of 2 homes that face the proposed property across the 3-lane highway. There are no residential properties that abut or are adjacent to the parcel. We are aware that there are people in the area that are against this proposal. Please be aware that there are also many Massillon residents who are in favor of the change. Most of our members are Massillon residents. Arguments we have heard against the proposal are as follows. Number 1, property values will be negatively impacted. Well, there's no factual basis for this statement, just opinion. We would suggest that since the corner is already 2/3 abutted by business, that's already factored in to the home values in that location. Number 2, this is already a busy corner, and adding a business will increase traffic. The fact is, a business will want to locate there to take advantage of one of the most highest traffic and visible traffic pattern areas in the county. A destination type business is not likely to build on this site due to the small size of the parcel. 3, how would traffic enter and exit the property? Well, if the property is rezoned as requested and subsequently sold, the purchaser would have to submit a use plans to the city for approval of the egress. We ask all of you to vote in favor of our request. If you are not in favor, we would like to hear from you with a solution to our situation. Is the city willing to purchase the property to keep it as a green space? Are neighbors who are against this willing to purchase the property for the same purpose? Any suggestion would be welcome. Sincerely, Keith Cleve, Treasurer, St. John Lutheran Church. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, my name is Cheryl Woods. I reside at 1821 Wales Road. And my home is basically catty corner from the church. Now the purpose is the church wants to rezone to business. What type of business? Do you want to change the zoning to business and then later the church gets a contract for, say, a gas station? Or I would imagine you could have fast food, or a small business, another small restaurant. We don't know. So once the property is changed to a business, that's final. We can never go back and change it into a residence again. And we are losing the integrity of our neighborhood. When you come down Willis Road into Massillon, you're greeted by this beautiful green space. And if the property is sold to a business, what do you have? Maybe an empty building there for a couple of years. Would you rather have green space and a beautiful neighborhood? Several. There's Shirley Lodge, there's Spring Haven, there's Spring Hill. We all love our neighborhood. We have pride in our neighborhood. Let's keep it. Let's keep it as a residential neighborhood. Let's stop building. And who knows, maybe, in the past, Progressive has wanted to purchase this. I'm not saying that they are or will, but what are the odds? Do you want automobiles for sale when you come into Massillon. Do you want the neighbors to see automobiles, bright lights, or parking lots, maybe an empty building in the future years? Please keep us residential. Thank you.
Cheryl?
Yes.
On the paper.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else before we move forward? Okay. New miscellaneous business. Anyone have anything? Introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 172, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with Stark County Regional Planning Commission, SCRPC, for the Massillon Housing Department ending December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Kramer.
Thank you, Madam President. As stated, this ordinance is requesting this annual agreement, which entails the city's housing programs, which are owner-occupied housing, rehabilitation, and home buyer assistance. This professional services includes environmental and historical reviews, initial home inspections, home rehab estimates with write-ups of projects, inspections during the rehab, and final inspections of complete rehabs. This compensation is $15,000 per year. This amount has remained the same since 2017. It does have emergency language due to provide uninterrupted assistance through the city's housing programs for qualified low to moderate income households in need. Due to this emergency language, does anyone have any questions regarding this request? Seeing none, I waive the rules requiring 3 readings and bring forward ordinance number 172-2022 for a vote.
Second by Councilman Lewis. Roll call for suspension.
Gregg?
Yes.
Harvick Smith? Yes. Aaron Kane?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Slutes?
Yes.
Sneed?
Yes.
Viola?
Yes.
And Kramer.
Yes.
7 yes for suspension. 9 yes, for suspension.
And for passage.
Harvick Smith? Yes. Aaron Kane?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Slutes?
Yes.
Sneed?
Yes.
Viola?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
And Gregg.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 172, 2022 is passed. Ordinance number 173, 2022.
An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Massillon, Ohio, excuse me, by rezoning certain property from RM-1 multiple family residential to B-3 general business district.
Councilwoman Kramer.
Thank you, Madam President. First reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 173, 2022 has received first reading. Councilwoman Kramer, is there a date for the public hearing on that?
There is a date, January 3rd at 6 p.m. here at Council Chambers.
January 3rd?
Yes.
Ordinance number 174, 2022.
An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Massillon, Ohio by rezoning certain property from RM-1 multiple family residential to B-3 general business district.
Councilwoman Kramer.
Thank you, Madam President. Also, first reading, there's also a public hearing for January 3rd at 6 p.m. here at Council Chamber. This request for the purpose of the rezoning is to allow for motor fuel retail convenience. I believe it's a Get-Go Cafe Mart. First reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 174, 2022 has received first reading. Ordinance number 175, 2022.
An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Massillon, Ohio by rezoning certain property from O-1 office to R-1 family residential.
Councilwoman Creamer.
Thank you, Madam President. This request is, the purpose of the rezoning is to allow for new residential construction. I believe the representative was from Habitat for Humanity that was here at the work session. We have a public hearing scheduled for January 3rd at 5.
I think it's at 5.
Yes, so I take that back. The public hearing for ordinance number 173, 174, and 175 is January 3rd at 5:30 p.m.
And Councilwoman Creamer, if I may, we might have to reschedule that because we have to give a 30-day notice and it's already the 5th of December. So we might have to reschedule that to the next council meeting. Or the work session, if you want to have it before the work session.
Councilman Hurricane.
We set these last week at the work session, which I think is sufficient. Oh, time change, never mind. Does that matter?
Did the time change?
Well,
No, the time changed from 6 o'clock to 5 o'clock because we had so many, but with it now being, I mean, I know we had it at the work session and discussed it then, but I didn't even have an ordinance to put, an ordinance number to put on the notice for the public hearing. It didn't become an ordinance until tonight. Last week it was a request for legislation.
Just to
So,
be clear, we'll give a definitive date at the work
At the work
session,
session.
but it is going to be at 5:30 because the number of public hearings will have to be. Thank you.
5:30 instead of 5.
Correct.
so 175 received first reading.
First reading, that's correct. Ordinance number 176, 2022.
An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Massillon, Ohio by rezoning certain property from R-1, one family residential, to B3, general business district.
Councilwoman Creamer.
Thank you, Madam President. The purpose of this rezoning is to allow for commercial development. There are 2 parcels located at 1900 Royals Road, now northeast, parcel 680121 and 680731. I know we were looking at setting a public hearing also for this request, and we were trying to get a definitive location. Diane will be able to,
I spoke with Mr. Pedro, and he said we could use the recreation center. However, our president said we just have it in council chambers.
okay, so we'll talk about it at the work session and set a public hearing date and time. First reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 176, 2022 has received first reading. Ordinance number 177, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Massillon, Ohio to enter into an agreement with Cyrus Osler to provide an economic development inducement grant to fund startup costs, including build-out, equipment, etc., for Grow Mental Health and Wellness located at 141 First Street Northeast, Massillon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Hurricane.
first reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 177, 2022 has received first reading. Ordinance number 178, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Massillon, Ohio to enter into an enterprise zone agreement for a tax abatement for Mass Trucking Incorporated and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Hurricane.
Thank you, Madam President. This was not at our work session last week. This was put on the agenda for this evening by electronic verbal from the Economic Development Committee. I would like Mr. Bailey to come up to the podium to talk about this ordinance, please.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This ordinance tonight is, and I apologize for the not being able to do the work session. There's a lot of moving parts to some of this stuff. One is we had to do school board notices, which require a time frame. And then there's also another component, which is a waiver from the Development Department, State Development Department, that we anticipate that we will get because, which I can explain, there's some jobs that are being moved from their other facility here to Massillon. Mass Trucking is a family-owned business that's been was founded back in 1969. They currently are located, they have two facilities, the larger facility and a small facility in Canton. The larger is in Millersburg, right outside, I think, the limits of Millersburg limits. Currently, they have 219 employees. They, back in 2020, they hauled over 50,000 loads and across 1,045 cities. So they do quite a business here. Mostly, I think it's on the eastern side of the United States. They're involved mostly in refrigerated transportation. One of their largest customers is Freshmark. So I think the location that they're looking at is down off of Richmond Drive Business Place, right up by R.G. Gray, which is a great location with regards to where Freshmark is currently located. They approached us, so we've been talking with MAPS for quite some time now. They did purchase 30 acres of property over there, and they're in the process of building a facility. And we'd like to have entertain a 10-year, 75% abatement enterprise zone for the company. The actual business that they're building, a facility here in Massillon, is going to be probably about a $6 to $8 million investment. They are looking to have projected full-time employment over the next 3 years of 50 additional employees. 20 will be transferred from their Lewisburg facility to Massillon. Their projected payroll is over $3 million. That's some of the things. I did put on all your desk a copy of what they call it, and that's on the website, which is some things today, called the Mass Big Five, and it just kind of lists their values. Like I said, they're a family-owned business and entrenched in the community down there. So, Mr. Chairman, we do have Kevin, who is the president of the company, and his wife Maria here.
Okay, I have one question for you. Council saw something related to Mass Trucking earlier this year, maybe even last year, I don't remember, regarding a traffic light on that road there.
Nate, yes.
Nate, to your knowledge, has anything, that's been several months, to your knowledge, has anything changed regarding the scope of this project since then?
No.
In terms of the job creation and the capital investment? Okay.
No.
I would ask, Madam President, that Mr. Mast approach the microphone in the back to say a little bit about his company and his project.
Mr. Master, keep on board.
Well, I think, there we go. I think Dave said it pretty well. We're a family-owned company. We're a refrigerated food hauler, and our area of operation is in the eastern half of the U.S. We have some of our main customers are right here in Stark County. Freshmark is one of them, we mentioned. Superior Dairy down the street. Case Farms is over on the east side of Canton, and there's a couple of other. I think within about a 25-mile circle, we have about 5 or 6 of our main customers. We're from Millersburg. That's our hometown. We're excited to move up here to Massillon. We still are going to maintain a facility in Millersburg. We're just going to do some different work down there than what we're doing up here. It only makes sense to be up here for several reasons. Obviously, with some of our customers, they require us to be within a certain mile radius of where their facilities are located. So, welcome to questions.
A couple questions I have. You're looking at a 20,000 square foot facility on approximately 38 acres. Projected cost would be $7 million in build-out. And of the 219 total company employees, the amount of employees that will be relocated to Massillon would be 40 or 50?
20.
20. In addition to, this says 40.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
The legislation request said will result in the creation of over 40.
Yeah, we anticipate over 40 new employees and then 20 that will be transferred.
Okay. With a total payroll of 2.7 million, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But that could obviously change. And one of the things I want to note is, I think the site that they purchased is larger, so, hopefully down the road, we're looking at a larger site at some point. They aren't committing to that, but if things go well, I think there would be maybe some additional expansion opportunities in the future.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Mass or Mr. Maley for members of council?
Councilman Sneak.
Sorry. But I think your job.
Thank you, Madam President. Just real quick, are you considered truckload or route deal? Or truckload? Truckload. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Hurricane.
Thank you, Madam President. I apologize. I considered this kind of a work session since we're having it here, so I apologize for usurping your duties there. We'll give this first read tonight, but with the calendar, we need to pass this by the end of the year, and we need to send this to the state of Ohio by December 31st, correct, Dave?
I don't believe I have to actually send it to the state, but I think we have to have it passed. I can double check. I don't think we actually have to send it there, but it does have to get there.
So look, today's December 5th. When we give it first read tonight, if we were to call a special meeting, and I would be in favor of that, 2 other council members would join me in setting a special meeting for 6:30 next Monday for second read, and then that would allow it to have third read and a decision on Monday, December the 19th. Does that work for that? Would that be able?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Would you like me to give first read first and then talk about the hearing, or how do you prefer? Give this matter for, give ordinance 178/2022 first reading tonight.
Okay.
And I would ask for a special meeting for next Monday at 6:30 if any others care to.
Councilman Bowman.
We can do it for 6:30 because it'll take 3 seconds.
All you'll do is give a second read.
Yeah.
Is that a second, Councilman Viola? Second by Councilman Viola.
The rules say there needs to be 3.
Councilman Slutes.
All right, thank you. Notices will then go out through the proper channel for that meeting, but we will revisit this next Monday at 6:30 for a special meeting. We will give a second read that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Ordinance number 178/2022 has received first reading, and we're going to have a special meeting next Monday at 6:30. Ordinance number 179/2022.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into a purchase agreement to purchase a 2023 MEDEX Type 1 ambulance on behalf of the Massillon Fire Department and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardi.
Thank you, President Mason. We discussed this in the work session. However, I was misinformed and misspoke in the work session on where the funding for this ambulance would be coming from. And President Eisnick, if you could call up Chief Hack, he would like to make a clarification on that, please.
If you could come forward, Mr. Chief Hack.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the council. So after a week of discussing some of the things, I think there was some confusion and some clarity that was needed. The funds that are used for ambulance purchases actually come from EMS transport revenue. 10% of the revenue comes in, goes into the EMS capital account. Every 2 years, right in that area, we use those funds to purchase the ambulance. So no income tax dollars are being used for the purchase of this ambulance. So that clarifies the funding, or where the source is. That's the question. Everything else is the same. The 2-year program that we do to replace those ambulances, the ambulance itself is the same going forward.
Any questions? Councilman Lombardi?
Thank you, Chief Hack. In the work session, we said I wanted to give this more than one reading because it was taxpayer dollars. Since that's not the case, what I would like to do tonight is make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings and bring 179-2022 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilman Slutes. Roll call for suspension.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
and Howard-Smith.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola, Creamer,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Howard-Smith,
Yes.
and Hurricane.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 179, 2022 has passed. Ordinance number 180, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio, upon the approval of the Board of Control, to enter into a master service and purchase agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated for the purpose of purchasing the Core Plus Taser and Body-worn Camera Program and Fleet 3 Advantage in-car program package bundles for the Massillon Police Department and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardi?
Thank you, President Eisner. Since we had the entire police and fire committee besides myself and other members of council out, could we please call Chief St. Noy and Captain Meyer up to just briefly give us a synopsis of what this is entailing?
Yes, gentlemen, if you could come forward.
First of all, good evening. Thank you as I always do. Appreciate your time and appreciate you guys giving us an opportunity to speak to you and address the council tonight. So with that being said, there were some members of council that were not here at the last meeting, and I'm glad that I'm looking at a full house here, so there is an opportunity for those of you that have questions that maybe weren't answered, and we'd like to be able to do that. So I give a full endorsement as the chief of police, and I think that this is a program that will benefit the department as well as the community equally because of its transparency and the level of services it's provided. But because Captain Meyer has put in all of the legwork on this, when it comes to details, prices, explanations, I want to turn the floor over to him, and I want you guys to address him directly. I think he's the best person to answer your questions.
Thank you, Chief. Madam President, thank you for letting me be up here. Last week we went pretty depth with this, so I'm going to try to abbreviate what we did last week a little bit and keep it a little shorter. So the Massillon Police Department is in need of replacing our outgoing body-worn camera system, our fleet, which is our in-car cruiser camera system, as well as our tasers that are 4 or 5 generations old, and we have multiple different models. The need for this is that the camera systems have a shelf life. The purchase of those old camera systems did not have any replacement program with them, and therefore we would have to enter into a new agreement with either that company, which has actually transitioned into a new company, was purchased out by another company, or do something like this. So we came across a couple different places, and we settled on Axon Enterprises due to several reasons, but mainly because of what they can offer for our needs to our community and to our police department. So I just want to touch on them a little bit. Obviously, we're going to get cameras, body cameras for every officer. We're going to get cameras for the cars for every car. We're going to get mobile routers for every car, which would allow us to live feed video from either their body camera or their in-car camera. We will get tasers for every officer. There's a package I believe everybody should have some of the highlights of everything we're getting. If I went through everything we're getting, we'd be here for a little while. This is the all-encompassing package. They come and install it and come and get everything ready for us. In 2.5 years, they come and replace the body cameras. That shelf life that I discussed, that will be replaced when we won't have to worry about that. At 5 years, at the end of the program, we also get replacement of all the equipment as well. So it's not just one set, there's going to be 3 sets in this period of time, which I'm not sure if I hit on that last week, but I wanted to make sure that I told you that. Like I said, it's a need for the community. It's going to increase our transparency for our citizens, which is one of the biggest things across the country, and including our community and locally, that citizens demand transparency from police. It's going to increase our proficiency, our report writing. It will increase our prosecution assistance with evidence, and as far as the camera systems go, it will assist us with a new type of taser that will not have 1 but 2 probes for a longer shot, a shorter shot, which will be then therefore safer for officers, as well as a less lethal weapon for the citizens, which will then ultimately be safer for them as well. If there's anything else, I can take some questions, or if you need me to explain more, I will.
Councilman Lombardi?
Thank you, President. I just think, Captain Meyer, it was brought to my attention that the proposal that we looked at had a mistake in the licensing. Can you touch on that and what exactly how Access handling that for us?
Yes, so there was a mistake in the licensing. They gave us licensing for 45. That was the amount of body-worn cameras that we had purchased. However, with talking to them, talking through it, we found out that we would need more licensed than body-worn so that our city's public relations people, our records people, and our chief could have their own, because their chief obviously doesn't wear his body camera like our officers on the road, so that they can access the program, redact information, and get it out to whoever may need it. So Axon allowed us to enter those in without any further charge, more than what was presented to you last week.
Councilman Lewis?
And the fee that we're discussing right now is the $131,000. Is that correct? Is that the number I remember?
Per year.
Per year.
Correct.
Give some check.
Correct.
Anyone else? Councilwoman Hurley Smith?
As far as at the end of 5 years, so every 5 years, they're going to give us the cameras and everything again. If we do not re-sign with them, as far as their termination agreement, all that information out there, everything that's been filmed, it says it's gone within 90 days unless you make arrangements. So they own all that. It just, someone can go back from 18 months and sue the police, the city. So that information, is that kind of like basically locking us in indefinitely with them?
No, it does not lock us in indefinitely. There is a retention schedule that is supposed to be followed. It's kind of in depth as far as what type of information they'll keep for us, but the vast majority would be deleted within 90 days. Our current system deletes everything in 45 days. If we do not specify what type of retention would be for that specific thing. So a normal interaction, nothing happens, there's no criminal or civil issue that we need to deal with, that gets deleted in 45 days automatically by the system that we had now. So Axon's 90 days. So we have to set up retentions. We do that with auto-tagging events. So if an event is something that would have a larger retention set, we'll say a murder scene, that is something that would get tagged and would be set up into a retention schedule with them.
Okay. And I have another question. I know last week my big concern is, this is almost $11,000 a month. It just seems like a lot of taxpayer money. As far as as proposals and estimates from other companies, how many companies did you talk to and what were their proposals?
So I talked to 2 other companies. One was the oncoming company that's taken over ours. They were supposed to send me a proposal. I have never received that proposal. That was approximately 2 months ago. I have not got anything from them. The other company was a Motorola company. They did send me a proposal. That proposal came up to a little over $400,000, and then we were going to have to purchase what's called cradle points for each car, and we would also have to employ a third party to have everything installed. So when that was all said and done, it was reaching to the matter of approximately $500,000 it was going to cost us merely for body cameras and in-car cameras. So we would have lost out on the taser piece of that as well.
And as far as grants that apply for, and I was looking at the Axon site and numerous ones, they have police grants for like Fleet 2. Did they discuss any of that with you or offer to help you get grants for that? Or what grants have we applied for, and did you specify this financial need? Or
The grants, we applied for a grant with the state of Ohio Department of Public Safety for a grant for this program, mainly for the body worn piece of it. Right now, that did, at least through the state of Ohio and some of the grant systems that we've used in the past, did not have anything for the in-car piece or the taser piece, but they did for the body worn piece. The Ohio Collaborative wants every officer in the state of Ohio to have a body worn camera, so they continuously put out these grants over the last several years. That grant is under review. They are behind schedule. We are hoping to know something. We just talked to them last week, and we're hoping to know something by mid-January on whether we would get that grant or not, if we would be denied or accepted for that grant.
so if we accept that grant, then we can apply that directly towards what we're paying.
It is a reimbursement grant, so we purchase the item and they would reimburse us. The amount is set by the state of Ohio, determined by the need of the program. Some of the things that they wanted was, obviously body-worn cameras, and the other big push is cloud-based services, which both of these would, this program would handle both of that. So I'm very optimistic about getting that grant.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Captain Myers, did that include drones?
So the drone piece was actually discussed and purchased. The unions have a officer safety fund. This year they came to us. We always discuss it. In the past, we've purchased things like ballistic shields and firearms and stuff like that in the past. They have a fund that they discussed with myself and the chief. This year they decided they would like to start a drone program because they believe that the drone program could go further towards officer safety. It gives an aviation piece to a city such as Massillon, and we wouldn't have to buy a helicopter. Probably don't want to buy a helicopter, it's probably a little bit pricey. But anyways, they decided to use their safety money towards that program. They're going to purchase, at this point, at least one drone, which will have an infrared camera, so it will be able to see bodies in the woods or something, so if a kid got lost or if we were searching for a subject. They're using that money for that, as well as they purchasing software with Axon to communicate together, integrate this system as well, so everything can link up. But that is kind of a separate piece to this that they're purchasing out of that fund.
Anyone else? Councilman Gray?
Thank you, Madam President. Captain Myers, I believe you mentioned last week that this proposal is actually a bundle package that if we purchase these items or these packages separately, it costs a lot more. Could you touch on that?
Yeah, so one of the things I looked at when we were discussing all this package was state contract prices. And for example, for the TASER, the state contract price for a TASER 7, just the TASER piece itself, not even the extra stuff that you would need for the TASER, is $1,750. They're selling it to us for $1,353 per TASER. That's what it comes out to. So if that kind of explains it, that the bundle price saves approximately 24% altogether. I don't know if that answers it, if I can explain more.
On the whole package?
Correct.
24%. So if we didn't go with this package, we went with these items separately, not that we would, but if we did, we'd be paying 24% more.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Lombard, Councilman Snee?
Sorry. Thank you, Madam President. Just real quick, do we know of any municipalities surrounding the Massillon area that are using comparable programs such as this?
So there's a couple that use comparable programs. Jackson Township has a program. Their program does not include the tasers. Theirs is only the body-worn cameras as well as the in-car cameras. And I'm not sure if they had some type of camera system they purchased for around the township or not, that went with it or not. Sometimes they do or not. I'd have to specify, I'd have to check with them if that was incorporated. North Canton Police Department has a program. Akron has a program. They do not have in-cars. No in-cars in the Akron that I know of. And there's several other agencies around. The biggest two, when you start to look around at agencies, is either Axon or Motorola.
So a quick thought, I'm thinking, would it be safe to say, if I was a young individual thinking about becoming a police officer, this could be used as a recruiting point as well?
I think the package program with what we're getting here and the way that society, with some of the demands that they have on police these days as far as this goes, allows young recruits to feel comfortable coming to a place that would have a camera system that would protect them. It protects them, it protects the citizens as well. And I think that's something that they all want. All the younger officers want body cameras. They want to show what they're doing because they know they're not doing anything that would, the vast majority of officers know they're not doing anything that would violate any rights or anything like that. So they want that transparency. So it protects them. It protects the citizens from rogue officers as well. So I think based on the package that's going to eventually come together, especially with our drones, that the union so graciously decided they wanted for their purchase, I think that will be really good for recruiting tools in the future to highlight some of the good equipment that we would have here.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Councilman Lombardi?
Thank you, President Eisner. Captain Meyer, Chief St. Noy, I'd like to thank you for all the work that you put in on this. As I said at the work session, this kind of money, I don't want to try to pass on first reading, but I believe that next council session, I will be bringing it forward for that. So tonight we do it first reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Ordinance number 180, 2022 has received first reading. Ordinance number 181, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Law of the City of Massillon, Ohio, to renew a one-year agreement with Stark County Public Defender's Office for the purpose of providing representation for indigent defendants that are charged under city ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Madam President. We discussed this legislation in a work session. This is something that we do each year, renew this contract. It's a one-year agreement with Stark County Public Defender's Office for the purpose of providing representation for indigent defendants. The amount has not changed since the previous contract, so given that, do we have any questions or discussion on this ordinance? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the three readings of the ordinance and bring ordinance number 181, 2022 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilman Hurricane. Roll call for suspension.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harvey Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
and Lewis.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harvey Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
and Lombardi.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 181, 2022 is passed. Ordinance number 182, 2022.
An ordinance to approve the 2022 replacement pages to the codified ordinances of the City of Massillon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Madam President. Similarly, this is something we need to do each year regarding replacement pages to codified ordinances. Routine. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the required three readings and bring ordinance number 182, 2022 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilman Hurricane. Roll call for suspension.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harvard Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
and Slutes.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harvard Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
and Sneed.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 182, 2022 is passed. Ordinance number 183, 2022.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the unappropriated balance of the 1401 Income Tax Capital Improvement Fund for the year ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis.
Yes, it's the appropriation of $230,170 for the ambulance purchase. Are there any questions or discussion this evening? Seeing none, make a motion to suspend the rules requiring three readings, reading ordinance number 183-2022 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call for suspension.
Kramer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harvard Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
Yes.
and Viola.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Gregg,
Yes.
Harvard Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
and Kramer.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 183, 2022 is passed. Ordinance number 184, excuse me, 2022.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the 1100 General Fund for the year ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis.
Considering that Councilman Gregg led the conversation last week, I'd like to hand over the discussion to his lead.
Okay. Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Yeah, we discussed this last week. Appropriating for the unappropriated balance $225,000 to the city improvement project. Do we have discussion this evening?
Councilman Hurricane.
Can you please refresh my memory on what the improvement project is?
I need to call someone from city administration.
It's the demolition of the
Yeah, demolition of the
tiger
Oh, okay.
That's right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just assumed there was probably more conversation last week, and I was hoping that you pulled that in. If not, then I apologize.
Do you want Mr. Manley to come forward?
Mr. Miller, will you please come forward and discuss this?
Council, Mr. Chairman, this is for the Tiger Rags, for 125 and 125 demolition. We have been awarded a reimbursement grant through the state of Ohio. We had put aside, at this point, $225,000. The bids did come in last week. They are under $225,000. So we feel very comfortable that we'll stay within that range of 225. And we'd like to have it passed so that we can possibly, we just put forward the survey reports. We're getting bids right now. I think they're due next Monday for the remediation part of it. But once the remediation is done, we probably should move forward quickly to have the buildings demolition.
Any questions? Councilman Lewis?
Again, I apologize. I thought there was more conversation. That's why I handed over to Mr. Gregg, so I apologize for not giving you a heads up either. So last week when we brought it, was there any conversation that was had about how this is a private-owned building?
Not a lot, but it's been discussed internally.
This is not a publicly held property. This is a privately held property that has had orders of demolition. And this proposal that we have in front of us is that we would fund that demolition and then receive the reimbursement grant.
That's correct. I did have discussions with the property owner and building owners. They said they did not have the $200,000 that we anticipated is going to cost.
However, the grant would allow, if the property owner were to spend their own money for demolition, the grant would allow for us to pass that on to them, the grant monies.
Yeah, well, yes. We had discussions with the auditor about, we've been going around and around on this for a little bit of time. We had asked whether they could provide the money, put it into a fund. We would use that fund, get reimbursed from the state, and then reimburse them. But ultimately, they said they did not have the money to do it. And it really comes back to the fact that if we don't do it, could be though they could, the property owner could walk away from the property, then we have to demolition it anyway. We just didn't want to take a chance of losing the funding, to be honest with you. But I'm following where you're at on the whole issue.
Councilman Gregg?
Thank you, Madam President. So I know we discussed that. One thing I don't believe we discussed is what happens to that property once the demolition is complete. It's still owned by the current owner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Kramer?
Has there been any discussion regarding relocation of this business somewhere in Massillon?
They already have relocated. They're next door.
Next door. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Sneed?
Thank you, Madam President. Just for my own curiosity, is there a declared value for the reimbursement grant? Is that going to cover the full amount, or is it just, there's that set value?
Well, there's $225,000 that's been set aside. We anticipated to use all that, but it doesn't look like we're going to use all that. And we made it clear to them that any money that was expended over that amount for the city should not be held liable for any of this. So whatever additional money that is required is going to come from them. On anything.
Councilman Lewis?
I'd like to call forth a representative from the law department.
Mr. Mack? Thank you.
They have to alleviate this issue. My concern concern is that if the city pays for the demolition, are we opening ourselves up to some sort of liability because now we are paying to demolish a property we do not own, and then does that property owner somehow potentially have a grievance against us if maybe it exceeds cost and they come out of pocket, or if they say the value was done improperly and devalue the property in some way? You know what I'm saying? Like, could they have a grievance against us?
So first and foremost, I mean, whether somebody files a lawsuit against the city doesn't mean the lawsuit have any merit, right? I mean, $300 in the pen is all you really need to file a lawsuit. But in terms of actual exposure to the city, in demolition cases, cities, building departments, they can get into problems when they don't give proper notice and there's not due process to the property owner and potential lien holders, right? So as long as that threshold notice of the demolition orders or right to appeal is adhered to, possibility of liability is going to be very low. The city is going to be further protected in proceeding with any kind of demolition because of the immunity that Ohio state law provides to cities. That's going to be something that would be considered a governmental function, and when we are engaged in governmental function, our immunities are very, very high. Now that doesn't mean that we can just willy-nilly tear down people's property without recourse. No, the Constitution says that if the city deprives somebody of their property, they have to get just compensation. And so that would really be the analysis. So as long as the proper procedures are adhered to, I think the city's exposure would be likely to be fairly low.
Mr. Mack, I have a question. As far as during the demolition process, if the building that is like up against or any of the surrounding properties are damaged, who is liable for that?
That would be a complicated question, and would have to really depend on what happened. So first and foremost, who we care about. Obviously, our taxpayers and safety from that perspective, the city's coffers. The first thing that we would be looking at is, was this thing torn down properly? Was the contractor that was engaged here, do they have culpability? That's where the liability would focus. I'm not saying at all it would be impossible for the city to be liable for an improper demolition where it collapsed into another building, but the focus would start with and likely be the demolition contractor and their bond and their insurance policy. That answers your question.
Thank you. So we want to make sure whoever we contract is licensed and bonded and will be responsible for anything that they could possibly do to surrounding structures. Thank you.
For sure, for sure.
Councilman Hurricane?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Mack, is there anything that precludes, if the property owner retains title of the property, is there anything that precludes he or she from building another structure on that site once it's torn down?
It's torn down. And I possibly, so we'll say we have amounts owed to us for tearing it down. Say we're not fully compensated, we have demolition costs that are on the title of that property. That could prevent the approval of their site plans to build another structure. But in the abstract, as long as everybody's paid from the city's vantage point, there wouldn't necessarily be something that would prevent them as long as their site plan is approved. Now, you can't just build a structure on, for instance, when you tear down a residential home, they fill it in to the structure. Those are unbuildable lots. But in the abstract, Councilman, no, there wouldn't be.
And I say that because it does, my brain is thinking, well, if the property owner is basically getting a free demolition because of the grant funding that the city is utilizing to tear down the structure, and he or she retained legal ownership of the property, could that have been negotiated as part of this, that the title would transfer to the city for like $1, and we could have used it for additional downtown parking or something? I mean, this person's always going to own this land.
Yes, the answer is yes. That can be done.
Thank you.
Councilman Lewis?
And to that point, that's where I'm hesitating. Like, we're essentially alleviating an issue for a property owner, and then they get all the benefit. We're improving this property because as it is now, it is unusable. So we're improving this property for free to a landowner. And we don't offer that same advantage to other landowners throughout the city. My house, were to be deemed condemned, I don't see the city saying, don't worry, we went and got a grant from the state, we're taking care of it, and now I have a free lot that I can do whatever I want on. I'd still be responsible for the demolition. That's my concern. The equality, equal treatment across the board.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Councilman Gray?
I believe it's still Mr. Lewis's committee, so I defer to Mr. Lewis.
Councilman Lewis? Mr. Bailey?
Just a couple of things. One is, this is a little unusual situation because this was like a one-time grant. The state, I think it had $150 million they awarded throughout the state for demolitions. Each county got $500,000 of it, 100%. First come, first served, we were able to get, we were, I think, the third one, second one, and we were able to get full amount for what we wanted, 225. It is unusual, you know, the way we looked at it, and I don't disagree with some of the thinking. I don't know what our legal options would be to go after the property owner. I think the intention is to build something else on the property. But if, like I said, if the property owner would walk away from the property, and we didn't have this grant, and we did get approval. I mean, we will, as part of this, have approval from the property owner to tear it down. So we have to have that also. But it's a little bit unusual situation that, and I know other property owners have, you know, approached me with regards to, well, you know, is there money? Well, yeah, but there really isn't something that's going to happen very often, I think. So it is a little unusual.
Anyone else? Councilman Snee?
I believe a question was posed before. Did we ever get clarification if this is going to, Mr. Mayor, you may want to stay up there for a second. Is this going to have a chain reaction to, say, where Margarita's is at?
As far as the buildings?
Yeah, because I believe it was posed a question. I don't know if we ever get a clarification on it.
No, it should not, and I think it's important that we get the right demolition company. So we are vetting the demolition companies. We got some good bid numbers back, but we are going to make sure we are comfortable with the company that does it, that has proven they can do these types of delicate projects.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there has to be some kind of a, maybe it's an engineering question, if there has to be some kind of a structure, support wall put up next to that to prevent a chain reaction from occurring. Since these buildings are, you see what I'm saying? Since these buildings are up against one another.
Correct. I don't believe that that's an issue, because the contractors that we talked to feel comfortable that they can do it. That's not to say we don't know what that building's going to look like when you take it, and that wall is going to look like also. So, you know, it's hard to say, but I think the companies that have bid, and we, like I said, we got, I think, nine bids or so, and some good companies bid, so we feel comfortable that we'll be able to get a quality company to do the job and do it the right way.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Gray?
Just want to follow up on what Mr. Snee was questioning. So if the remaining wall that's now part of Margarita's needs to be reinforced or something done to that, would that be part of this project, and would that be something separate that we'd have to pay for?
Well, if we can include it as part of the project, the guidelines, if we include it in the project, sure, we'll try. If we have the additional money, we'll try to get it done. If we can't, then it's the property owner's responsibility to pay for that. I mean, they'll have to work with the Margarita's property owner to figure out who's paying for what.
Right, because I think we had the discussion that those walls, when we originally built, weren't made, they weren't out exterior walls. So now we're making an interior wall, an exterior wall may not have proper support. So I don't want that, I would want that the city would be liable for additional costs
after the fact that we discovered, well, we got to do some work on this wall.
I don't anticipate the city to be on liable for any of this. We should be able to get everything covered, and whatever we don't have covered, the property owner definitely will have to.
Thank you.
Councilman Lombardi.
Thank you, President Eising. So just to clarify, Mr. Manley, if we knock down Tiger Rags and it causes a problem with Margaritas is on the hook for what we just did.
I would not say Margaritas is on the hook.
Or whoever owns that building. If we knock down the two,
I think they would have some type of, I guess you could get our law department up here, but I think they would have some recourse with the property owner. Or not the property owner.
So I guess I'm looking at a more maybe drastic situation. I'm just making this up in my head. But let's say Margaritas is leaning against Tiger Rags. We knock down Tiger Rags, and all of a sudden we open a hole in Margaritas. They're out of business until that can be repaired. I mean, you know, we've got to be, I would think we would have to be, you know, prepared for a contingency such as this, rather than just say, oh, well, that's your building, that's your problem.
Well, Mr. Lombardi, I guess at this point we don't know until we get there what it's going to look like until they tear those buildings down. And this isn't the first time we've had buildings tore down in whole cities, buildings like this. So once the buildings are tore down, we'll have to evaluate what it looks like. We don't see anything right now that's going to be an issue for Margaritas. But until you get those walls and get them separated out, it's going to be harder to, you know. Either way, we're stuck because we have a situation where we have unsafe buildings. They have to come down. I mean, it's not a very good situation for anybody. We're just trying to do the best we can now. This is a little bit complicated.
Anyone else? Councilman Lewis.
First reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 184, 2022 has received first reading. Ordinance number 185, 2022.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the unappropriated balance of 1100 general fund for the year ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis.
First reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 185, 2022 has received first reading. Madam Clerk, is there any unfinished business?
No, there is not.
Are there any petitions and general communications?
There are not.
Are there any bills?
Yes, we have a bill in the amount of $81.38 payable to Office Depot for copy paper.
Councilman Lewis.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second by Councilman Gregg. Roll call.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneak,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
and Gregg.
Yes.
9 yes to pay the bills.
Thank you. The clerk will pay the bills and charge them to their proper accounts. Are there any reports from city officials?
Yes, we have the auditor's report for November 2022.
Councilman Lewis.
Make a motion that we accept the auditor's report.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneak,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
and Howard Smith.
Yes.
I'm sorry. 9 yes to accept the auditor's report.
Thank you. The auditor's report has been accepted. Reports from city officials. It looks like Mayor Kathy has something for us.
Good evening, Madam President, members of council. Just a few updates that I'd like to give you tonight. Those of you that attended the candlelight walk last night, and the ceremony was absolutely beautiful. Congratulations to everyone that had a hand in that. It was just another, it's been 2 years since we've had COVID, we weren't able to have it, and we had about 1,000 people in St. Mary's Church. It was very, very nice. Also, the skate rink bid is opening up on Wednesday this week, so we'll give you more details next Monday on how that went. You're going to be noticing on Erie Street South that we're tearing down some trees. They put the fence there right before you hit 21. So it was really unsightly, and we did clear, if you recall, up by the 21 and the movie theater, and it just really opened up our cities. We're trying to get the southeast area cleaned up as well. A couple other things I just wanted to go over with you. We have awarded the Getz Building restrooms, so that project is moving forward. The sidewalks and on Charles Street, the bid opening for the new street underground utilities will be December the 14th. So that's coming up. December 8th is Dudley Court. So we're going to be removing two of these large apparatuses back here in between the Getz Building and the Annex Building. We've worked on that, I'm going to guess about 3 years, maybe 3.5, 4. But we've finally been able to make some headway and work together with both AT&T and Dominion. So that is exciting to get that completed and started. Police renovations, we're going to be working on those. The RFQs are due December 20th, and our solid waste contract, the bid is due December the 13th. I want to remind all of our council members that our projects now for ARPA are in design. And so next year, I don't want you to be surprised when you get complaints that there's a lot of construction going on. There will be quite a bit of construction next year throughout the city, and that's a positive. It's just going to be a hardship going through the construction phase. So, and we hope that you saw that some of the roads got paved this year, and some of the roads did not get paved this year. The roads that did not get paved, the contractors were very, very busy, so they were able to do what they could do. So those roads that were on the list that did not get paved this year will be caught up in the spring, early summer, with another list for next year. So we have lots of paving going on in this next year. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Reports of committees, our next work session will be next Monday, December 12th, 2022 at 6:30. We will also have a special meeting at 6:30 prior to the meeting. Are there any requests of council members? Calendar, we have nothing. Third reading ordinance and resolutions. Ordinance number 155, 2022.
An ordinance amending Section 2D, occupation list of class titles of Ordinance 127-1997 by separating the positions of Civil Service Administrator and Equal Employment Opportunity Officer as merged by the enactment of Ordinance number 93-2018. Reclassifying and enacting an increase to the class grade pay schedule for the position of the Civil Service Administrator under 150 Civil Service Commission, reestablishing and creating the 175 Human Resources Department, reestablishing and creating the position of Equal Employment Opportunity Officer, and establishing the class grade pay schedule for said position within the 175 Human Resources Department, repealing ordinance number 93-2018 in its entirety in the city of Massillon, Ohio, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Councilman Gray.
Thank you, Madam President. So we've had multiple discussions on this legislation in the past. It appears, when you look at the writing of the legislation, to be somewhat complicated, but again, I mentioned the issue really isn't. We need to separate that position into two positions. Should not have been combined in the first place, and we need to have the Civil Service Administrator reporting to the Civil Service Commission, not to the City Administration. So, are there any further questions or any further discussion on this legislation? Seeing none, I'd like to move that we bring this legislation ordinance number 155, 2022 forward for a vote.
Seconded by Councilwoman Hardwick Smith. Roll call for passage.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Violand,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
and Hernkay.
Yes.
9 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 155, 2022 is passed. Ordinance number 160, 2022.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 143-1976 to enact a new section allocation of funds income tax by repealing section 13 allocation of funds income tax and enacting a new section 13 allocation of funds income tax and repealing ordinance number 151-2019 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis.
There's additional conversation needed, so with that, I will make a motion that we table ordinance number 160-2022 until the December 19th.
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Violand,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hernkay,
Yes.
and Lewis.
Yes.
9 yes to table ordinance number 160, 2022 until December 19, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 160, 2022 has been tabled till December 19th of 22. Ordinance number 161, 2022.
An ordinance to adopt appropriations for the operating and capital expenditures of the city of Massillon, Ohio for the fiscal year 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis.
I made a motion that we table ordinance number 161-2022 until the December 19th meeting.
Seconded by Councilman Gregg. Roll call.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Violand,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hernkay,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
and Lombardi.
Yes.
9 yes to table ordinance number 161-2022 until December 19, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 161, 2022 has also been tabled until December 19th of 22. Resolution number 14, 2022.
A resolution reversing the decision of the Massillon Board of Zoning Appeals in the variance case number 2022-16.
Councilman Creamer.
Thank you, Madam President. As stated, this request is to reverse the decision of the Massillon Board of Zoning Appeals in variance case number 2022-16. The first variance is to allow for a structure that is too large for the available space. The dimensions of the structure are 26 feet by 40 feet, which is a detached garage in the rear yard of parcel number 619373. And the second variance is to allow the structure with a height of 17 feet 6 inches, whereas the legal limit is 14 feet. This structure is located in Ward 1 at 843 Sheffield Avenue Northeast, Massillon, Ohio. I would like to bring up Assistant Law Director Evan Mack initially to give us an overview of this request. We've been having multiple discussions over the last few weeks, and I would just like you to recap additional or any additional information you may have regarding this.
Thank you, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And the issue before you tonight is an appeal of a variance that was granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals to the applicant, Mr. Kevin Smith. Now, the appeal of that decision was filed by some neighboring property owners pursuant to the Massillon Codified Ordinances by Mr. Richard Wiley and Miss Charlene Wiley. In determining these issues and considering this resolution that's before you, should you pass this ordinance by the 2/3 majority that's required under the Massillon ordinances, then the variance that was granted to Mr. Smith will be reversed and denied. I would like the record to reflect that both Mr. Smith, the applicant, is present here in the room this evening, as are the individuals that filed the notice of appeal, Ms. Wiley and Mr. Wiley. The transcripts are to be provided to each of the council members that was relied on, or excuse me, that was developed in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Of course, you can consider all of that information in those transcripts and the exhibits that were before the BZA, in addition to the information that you discussed during your meetings, for which we have transcripts and minutes of those as well. Should the chairwoman or the council members wish to ask any questions of either the appellants or the variance applicant, I prefer they be sworn in, and I'll be sitting in that area, ready to administer any oath from any person that the council would like to hear from, and I would encourage that the council give an opportunity of both the appellants and the applicant to address this body. The legal standards that should apply to your decision making, we discussed before, but just to kind of briefly summarize them once more. Standards to evaluate the BZA's decision on the variance are set forth in Mass Codified Ordinance 11.29.05D and 1129.05B. And those ordinances, of course, speak for themselves. What the ordinance speak to is this: when you have an application for a use variance, which is what this is, the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate that granting the variance is appropriate. And under our ordinances, they have to demonstrate, the applicant has to demonstrate two things, which is exceptional practical difficulties, and that such relief can be granted without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. When you determine and make a determination as to whether the existence of practical difficulties are present, requires application of the Duncan factors, which were announced by the Ohio Supreme Court, Duncan versus Middlefield, and this body has discussed them on many occasions. Certainly the Duncan decision speaks for itself. But I appreciate the seriousness in which you're approaching this issue, and I, of course, as your counsel, will be able to answer any questions that you might have, or do anything else that could be useful in assisting you in your deliberation. Thank you, Chairman.
Councilman Kramer?
I would like to ask the appellants if they would like to come up and have any additional information or would like to speak to council before I would bring up the applicant. So, Ms. White, do you have any additional information that you would like to come up and speak to council regarding?
Is this on? I don't know what else I can tell you.
Do you mind if I swear in real quick?
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Tell me enough.
Oh, you did good. Fair enough. You're good. Thank you.
I know you spoke weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just would like to give you this opportunity just to recap anything or provide us any additional information this time, since tonight is the third reading, and I will be bringing this forward for a vote.
Well, there's a number of you that have been by and looked at it, at the building on the back side of my property. And you all know that there was no permits, and the building's too tall, it's too big. It takes up most of his backyard when it's only supposed to take up 25%. So, and I've read over all the ordinances, and it defeats all of them, and it speaks to, we can just put up any building we want to on our property in the city. It's obnoxious,
It doesn't fit in our neighborhood. There are no other buildings even around that are comparative to this. And it devalues my property. He might say that it did something for his, but it didn't do anything for my property. It's an eyesore. And I don't see any way to make it go away. I mean, Mr. Silla said that maybe I could put up, something to disguise it. Well, nobody's gonna let me put up anything big enough if I go through the legal things and try to get permits. I basically have to put up a building as big as his. And that's not legal in the city of Massillon. So I don't see any other choice unless he wants to make it fit his property, reconstruct it. Anybody want to ask me anything?
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Willie? Mr. Viola?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Ms. Willie. Just a couple questions for you here. How long has Mr. Smith lived on that property?
Not very long, maybe 2 years.
Okay, but it was in his family before that, to your knowledge?
Yes, it was his grandparents.
Okay, you stated that you feel like your property is devalued based on this structure. What particularly? Like, is it affecting your airspace, your light, your view? What?
When you look, that's all you see in my backyard now. I mean, you just see this huge building.
Okay. Have you had any formal appraisal done or anything, or you just are of the opinion that your property is devalued because of this obstruction, I guess?
No, I haven't, other than I've had people say that they wouldn't purchase my house because of that building.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilwoman Creamer?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The applicant, Mr. Kevin Smith, would you like to come forward and recap or provide council any additional information that you may have?
Mr. Smith, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to go down through some of the dumping factors with you. I guess the first one factor, with the property yield a reasonable return compared to the housing value.
Could you speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry, I apologize. With the property yield a reasonable return, the property value was at $75,000 to $85,000 before the project, so the property value is now at $137,000. The neighbor to my west, who adjoins my property, his property value went up over $20,000 after the garage was built. That's the only difference. He did nothing else. Okay, so as far as lowering other people's property value, I would ask them to seek an appraiser on their house to determine that. I can't appraise a house. My best friends probably can't appraise a house. That's what they're professionals for. I own an F350 truck. That garage is 22 foot long, 12 foot wide. The pickup myself is 22 foot long. If you look it up on you Google it or whatever you want to do for that 350 dually, it's 22 feet long. It wouldn't fit in the garage. A standard truck would not fit in the garage. If you had a long, full-size car, it would not fit in the garage. They had a Focus that fit in, and then they had a Mercury, small Mercury that they had. They're talking about patio beside the garage. It was not a patio, it was a carport. If you look at an appraisal, they deduct on my first one for having a carport. It's not a thing. I don't park my car out in the weather. I don't park my truck out in the weather. Okay, so as far as that saying, there's no way I couldn't park it in. So if you're asking for, a reason why I need it, a practical reason, that's why I need it. I go out, I work every day. I work 80 plus hours a week. I run the restaurant. I work a full-time job, which brings more money than that's So the yield on my house is definitely going to be better. You're talking about 25% of the overall property is how I was explained to, and that's how I was approached by the zoning board. The garage is 15%, the house cover is 12%. That's 27%. You say substantial in the Duncan factors. Is 2% substantial? I don't believe it's 2% substantial. I remeasured the garage. You're saying the height is 17.6. It is not. It's closer to 16 feet. So if you want to come measure, I walk randomly there. It's not 17.5 feet. It's closer to 16 feet than anything. It was windy on the day that I was trying to measure it. I couldn't get the tape measure saying I didn't have a ladder. So I don't believe 2% substantial. They say that there's not another building in our neighborhood like that. It's funny, when I talked to the neighbor that's complaining, he told me where to go to look at the building that's very similar to it. That's on less than a block away on 9th, between 8th and 9th Street. And it's, I guarantee you, it's only 14 feet. If you look at the gaps about my yard, if you look at down on Erie Street, there's a house there that lived in, residential, that has no yard and 2 garages. Do they have to tear this down too? I mean, I'm not a rebel. I'm 53 years old. I could have filled this place up tonight. I just think that's insanity. I built a garage. I have pictures showing you. This is a 2-car garage with storage space, or a 3-car garage with a little storage space. I've got the measurements right here. You can Google what that garage is. Okay, I can show you where I park. I have a Subaru Crosstrek. I have 2 Willys Jeeps in a truck, in a van that I gave away to somebody that I took in who was homeless because he lost his job. Now I let him live with me and get back on his feet. Is that a guy that's looking to take care of the system? Absolutely not. I have 20 employees. My restaurant is built on an equity line off that house. When you make me tear down that house, you're going to lose $100,000 worth of payroll. You're going to put 20 people out of a job that live here in Massillon. Okay. So again, it's on 2%, about 25%, is the way it's explained to me. Factor number 3, character of the neighborhood again. You can walk a block down the street. We can go show you the house. It's between 8th and 9th Street. Right down the street from him. He's the one who told me to go look at the building. I only looked at the building, built the same building. Variance and how it affects government properties with sewer, gas. It's not affecting any of those. You're saying that because I own properties and or businesses in the Massillon, that I should know all the variances, all the ordinances. If you want to ask me about the restaurant industry, I can tell you. People say I'm an idiot because I've tried 3 times to build a restaurant in Massillon. I've invested my money in people. They probably say I'm not very smart because that's a very tough industry. When I work full time, I take 0 from that restaurant. But if I have 20 people with a living, I take 0 income. The restaurant itself, if you went inside, again, is way better than what it used to look, in my opinion. Providing 20 Massillon residents a job. Could I predictably feasibly be able to do it without putting that size of building? The truck is big. The truck is 8 foot tall. I can't fit in a standard garage door. I had to put 10-foot garage doors on, which means you've got to have a foot or 2 above them for the roll up or whatever else that you need, which raised the height of the building. Listen, if I knew I was going to have to go through this, I would have made sure it was under 14 feet. Why would I want to go through this? Why would I want to put you through this? It makes no sense. They came on Friday. I didn't know they were there. I came home at 8:30 tonight. They were 3/4 way done with it. They showed up the next day and finished it. Asked me for cash. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I went to the credit union and got them a cashier's check and paid. Now, should I have asked you? I should have. But I contracted them in April 30th of 2021 to build the building. They didn't show up until November the 30th or somewhere in that area. And they just showed up and started building. And they were there, did it, paid it, gone. I had to go through, drive to Youngstown to get them to answer the phone. Viking still won't answer the phone when I turn my calls. I've been trying since I came here. They subbed it out to the company in Youngstown that's called High Point or something, I forget the exact name. They came down and subcontract to a different guy who came down and put up the structure. The structure is way above the standards. I didn't build a cheap building. I'm having my house paid the same color. You have 8 other neighbors who signed that paper that I gave you a copy of with their signatures that have no problem with it, but you're going to let one neighbor dictate what we do here in Massillon? I thought it was corny. How many other neighbors have called you? Now, I could have built the place up tonight. I'm not going to be a jerk. I'm not going to do that to you. I wouldn't feel right about it. I feel bad about it. No, but I could have built the place up tonight for people to support me. I could have. I could put a sign up the restaurant. I could put a petition up the restaurant. I could put a petition on Facebook. I'm giving you guys the truth. I'm not here to cause anybody's problems. I talked to them about the building. The report since June, and I couldn't get them to come build it. If there's a problem, you could have walked across the thing, or you could have seen me out there with my dogs every day and said, hey, are you going to build it that big? Are you going to do, what is your plan? How high is it going to be? I would have done everything. Listen, I'm good with my neighbors. I don't cause any problems. I would have done it. I would have done it. All you have to do is ask. Anybody who knows me knows I'll give you a sharp my back if you need it. Spirit behind the intent. Why would I want to go through this? I work 2 full-time jobs. It doesn't make sense. Again, Viking Steel, if you want to try to go hold them, good luck. Yeah, you're talking about one neighbor. I have 8 neighbors. You have their signatures that have joined the property too, that have no problem with it. I have pictures to show you there's 12 inches of cement there, saying there's not. I have pictures of the garage showing that how little space there is. There's a picture of the opening that I have for the truck. There's the 2 Jeeps in the center that I turned sideways. There's my little Subaru with a little bit of space over here for storage. How is that too big?
Mr. Smith, if you'd like council to consider your pictures, and with the chairwoman's permission, I'll probably start it, or I can probably take them for you.
Thank you.
Listen, if you want me to tear down the building, the bank's going to come in here. I can show you, give you the picture of that too, for the equity line I have on it. And you would put 20 people out of work. I care about them people. I care about them. I didn't do this for me. I've done the restaurant business. I did this for my cousin and his wife and his 4 children. Because that's their dream. I didn't need to do this again. Anybody who knows me will tell you I'm the worst liar in the world. It's all over my face. I'm compassionate, I'm hardworking, and I'll do everything I can for this community, period. That's who I am. So if you want to take that personal way, make me down the garage. I'll move out of it, I'll shut it down. Down in that restaurant, we'll put 20 people out of work. I'll continue to survive because I'm a fighter. I'm not a rebel. By any means. I'm a survivor. I grew up the hard way.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does any council members have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I just want to clarify, you have 2 Willys Jeeps, a Subaru, and a pickup truck in the garage?
There's a van. The pickup truck's not there right now. So I have a van that I can put in there and the pickup truck needs to go in there. Okay. I don't want to keep, storing it at a friend's house or whatever like that. So.
That's all my questions, ma'am.
Anyone else? Councilman Viola?
Thank you. Mr. Smith, just a few questions here. First of all, I think you heard Ms. Wiley state that you've been on the property for 2 years now, is that correct?
I can't give you that. I can't give you the exact date, honestly, I don't know. I know they were gonna get, my
Approximately?
yeah, so 2.5, 3 years maybe.
Okay, and how long before that, you said your family owned the property?
My grandparents owned the property, correct?
Okay, and they were able to get some beneficial use of the property as a homestead?
Yeah.
Correct?
As a homestead, yes, I get beneficial as a
Correct,
homestead.
as yours, okay. I guess, what specific, like, topographical conditions or extraordinary conditions of the property, like, warrants a variance in this case?
It does say extreme, it says reasonable. The word on there,
No, in 112905B, it talks about variance, and it says, by reason of exceptional narrowness shall in this specific piece or exceptional topographical conditions. Like, what is it about the property that is preventing you from getting beneficial use out of it, based on those factors?
based on the factors, I couldn't fit my car in the garage, I couldn't fit a truck in the garage, I couldn't fit anything in the garage. It was there, it was falling over.
Okay.
The garage was not safe. It was standing there and it had 2x4s going all the way, trying to keep it from going in. The cracked block, I can bring you pictures of the blocks that were cracked, the outside, the west side.
Okay, I'm not asking about that, I'm just asking, do you know, did you present any of this evidence to the zoning board of appeals? Did you walk through the Duncan factors with them?
But they not requiring me to, I just went there and I filed my paperwork. I mean, if you're worried, if you want me to pay a bigger fine, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to put up a fence, I'm willing to plant trees, I'm willing to put windows in the back of it to make it look not road industrial. But you're saying obnoxious?
So,
What's your definition of obnoxious?
So I guess, no, okay, did I say obnoxious?
They did.
Okay, I didn't say obnoxious. So, question is, you state that you have a lot of vehicles and you have a 22-foot long truck that wouldn't fit in your prior garage, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you said the truck is approximately 8 feet high, and this building is what, 16.5 feet high? Is that correct?
The truck is approximately 96 inches tall. The problem is it will not fit in an 8-foot standard garage door. It has to be 10 foot. So there's clearance. Then above that, there has to be room for the roll-up garage door, or if you're going to use a standard garage door, it's usually 2 feet.
Okay.
So then from there, that pushed it up. If I could lower the building and not make it unsafe, you can't cut it with the structure.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question. So was this garage from Viking?
Viking steel out
Viking
of,
Steel, was this the only option for a garage that you could purchase to meet your needs?
they're all similar garages. If you go from
This
one
size,
to
the 26 feet by 40 feet, was that the only option available when you went shopping to put a garage in your rear yard? Was that the only option provided to you to meet
it's
the
the
needs?
option that fit the vehicles I had, the number I had, this little extra storage. That's what fit. I mean, that's what made reasonable sense to me. If I would have known, I would have made sure it was smaller. I would have, cut 2 feet off of it, off the end to make it. I would have told them, is there a different roof style that I could use to make it under the 14 feet if I would have been aware of these? I wouldn't have had you have to go through all this. I wouldn't have.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilwoman Harwood-Smith?
So, you decided, you purchased this garage in April, wasn't built in November. So in all that time, you never made one attempt to get a building permit, is that true?
They were supposed to get the building permit. They're contracted. If you have your house built, they get the building permit. The contractor gets the building
So
permit.
the contractors, if they did not get a building permit, then they would be liable for.
Correct. And I hired an attorney. I'm working with that. We're going to send a letter asking them why they
So
didn't
that
get
would
it.
not be a hardship on you, they would be responsible because they did not get the building permit.
It depends on how the court rules. I don't know that answer. I'm not.
Well, I would,
I mean, your counsel's here. I mean,
so when you purchased the building,
it tells you the size, the width, and the height. The size, the width, and the height, we were told, is 26 by 40 by 17 feet 6 inches.
It's not
So-
17 feet though, it's not.
Is that what you purchased, was a building that was 17 feet 6 inches?
I don't believe that it's.
Because I don't know why you would have to go measure it yourself. I mean, because whatever you purchase, it's just to say that on your contract what it is.
And it probably does, but I didn't look at that. I just wanted to measure it because I had a tape measure there.
But you said that you're not sure if it was accurate because the wind was blowing.
The tape.
More accurate thing would probably be whatever the contractor.
Right, and I think I had that with, I could look, I do not know the answer to that.
Yeah, I asked these similar questions of you the very first time we talked to you, and you said you would provide that information. And I never got anything back as far as that they were responsible for the building permit, but you're saying they are, so I'll take
And I'm saying
yes,
that,
I'll take
and I
your
also
word
said
they-
that I called them and they won't return their calls. I had to drive there
All right, so
to get them. To answer, then I had to wait for an interpreter to come that spoke English to even be able to bring the papers out of the building department.
I hate this, I mean, I think it's a nice building, but when I look at where it's at, I mean, you're talking 2%. When I look at the ordinance, or the variance, or however it is, it's 25% of your backyard. You cannot exceed 25% of your backyard. The building looks like it takes up over 50%, 60%, 70%. I mean, it's huge. I mean, I would almost agree with Ms. Willie, like, it's a nice building, but for where it's at, it is very obnoxious. And the problem that I have is that with no permit, I mean, if you would have got a building permit, or they would have got a building permit, this never would be here. But the problem is that if we allow you to do this, then it sets a precedence for the city that anybody can do whatever they want to do and pay a $125 fine. And that's where I have a problem with it, because then why do we have any laws?
I agree with you. If I would have known they didn't get a permit, when I found out, I stepped in to get the permit. Said, let's just do everything. They didn't get it. What do I need to do? And they said, this is what we need you to do. They told me that it's 25% of the total property, and they told you that in here as well. That they said it's 25% of the square footage of the property. That's what they said they were in here. That's the way they explained it to me, and that's why I'm going with the 2% over.
Does our law, do we know what it is? Is it 25% of the rear property?
Well,
What is our actual rule?
so the interpretation that
Mr.
was...
Mack, would you speak in mic?
Sure.
Thank you.
The interpretation that was given by the Board of Zoning Appeals is in the minutes, and the variance that was requested, we were talking about, the variance with respect to the oral variance was requested by the applicant during the hearing. So, I mean, that's what's the interpretation that was served as the foundation for what the gentleman was asking for. So I think that's the interpretation that's in front of this body.
What is the actual thing though for the city of Massillon? What is our rule?
The ordinance?
Yeah.
I'm happy to pull it for you. Yep. If you just let me go ahead and grab that out of the
That would be great.
codified ordinances, you can go ahead and I'll
Yeah,
copy it.
thank you. Well, he's looking, that's all the questions I have. If anyone else has another question while he's looking for that.
Councilman Biola?
Just to answer that question, it's 25% of the required rear
Point
yard.
of order, I apologize. We got to get this under control. We have Mr. Smith sworn in. Do we have any more questions for Mr. Smith? If not, then we need to dismiss him so we can sit and continue our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Before I go, I want to get established that I was given 25%. They asked me for the property square footage, and they said it's 25% of the total footage, and you had to even call over and ask them. That's what I was told, and that's what I went by. So that's the way it was explained to me. That's the way it was brought up here when we came the first time. So that's what I went by the 2%. So that's the way they explained it to me. And they even said, she said that that's the way they did it.
Thank you. Councilman Kramer?
I'm just waiting for Mr. Mack to respond to Ms. Hardwick-Smith.
Sure.
Councilman Lewis?
While he's continuing to look that up, I just have a few comments I want to make. First off, I just want to make sure council understands that the fact that the property owner owns a business and has made statements that he would close such business if we were to find not in his favor should have no bearing on your decision this evening, because it's an unrelated matter. It should not be brought up in conjunction with this matter. As far as the Duncan factors are concerned, and the statements that have been made, whether the property in question will yield a medical return, or whether it can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance, I would say that the entire neighborhood is built with properties of similar stature and similar structures as prior to this building. So it would be reasonable to assume that it would still have a return on the investment as any other property in the area would. I know there was debate or discussion brought up about the truck. Well, I, as well as many people I know, do own large trucks. And it is known when you purchase a large truck in an older neighborhood that you most likely will be parking it outside, because garages are not outfitted for that. My garage will not fit my truck, height or depth either, and it sits outside all winter. It just is by nature. When I bought that truck, it was a known variable. Likewise, my next house that I purchased, if the garage is too small, I will know that my truck will not fit. It does not give me a right to ask for variances of local law in order to fit my truck. I find it further interesting that it went beyond just fitting a dually truck. We are looking at a structure that can hold 2 Willys Jeeps, a van, a Subaru, and possibly also the 22-foot long, 8-foot high truck. That is in way excess of the need of just the truck. So I think that speaks to whether the variance is substantial. There are 2 variances being requested, so that has made it substantial. I used to live in that neighborhood for about 2 or 3 years of my life, and I've worked in that neighborhood for about 6 years of my life. I'm very familiar with the character of that neighborhood, and I would say that a building of this size taking up that much area is definitely not the character that that neighborhood is known for. And then whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning, I guess I can never speak exactly to someone's knowledge. However, if they would have followed protocol and got proper building permits, they would have been made very well aware of the variances and zoning rules of that area. That is why I personally will not be in support, or I will be in support of reversing this decision that the Zoning Board of Appeals made.
Councilman Kramer? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Lombardi.
Thank you, President Eisnick. I just want to make a clarification here that a yes vote on this reverses the decision of the zoning board, and a no vote leaves it stand.
Councilman Kramer?
Thank you, Madam President. Does anyone else have any additional information? We all know this is an area variance. We know that the applicant must prove these 2 conditions due to exceptional conditions of such property. Strict application of the regulations would result in practical difficulties. Mr. Lewis reviewed some of the Duncan factors stated. Any additional? If not, I must to respond. Okay.
Yep, just to the one question about the percentage, and again, we're talking about the third area of the third aspect of the variance. And so passage of this ordinance will overturn all 3 of the aspects of the variances that were granted by the BZA. But as to the third portion of that, I'd like to thank it was the chairwoman who provided me a copy of this, and I confirmed it here on my computer. Master Ordinance 1181.01C reads as follows. An accessory building shall not occupy more than 25% of a required rear yard plus 40% of any non-required rear yard, provided that no instant shall the accessory building exceed the ground floor area of main building. And so if we look at the transcript of the BZA, explains how they interpreted that calculation and the basis for the variance request. So again, passage of this resolution for you tonight would include all 3, not just the percentage area aspect of it. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilman Kramer. Thank you, Madam President.
So at this time, seeing no additional comments or questions, I would like to bring resolution number 14-2022 up for a vote.
Second by Councilman Snee. Before we do roll call, is everyone straight in your head what a yes and a no vote is doing tonight? Is there any question for anybody? Okay, roll call.
Snee,
Yes.
Violen,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hearn King,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
and Sluse.
Abstain.
8 yes, 1 abstention for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Resolution number 14-2022 has passed. We're at second reading ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 166-2022.
An ordinance amending section 2D occupation list of class titles of ordinance number 127, 1997, 845 Community Development Planning Department to increase class grade pay schedule for Economic Development Director from 22S SU-UN to class grade 26S SU-UN.
Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Madam President. This has been given one reading so far. It does not have emergency language. I believe I'm going to give this another reading tonight, second reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 166-2022 has received second reading. Ordinance number 167-2022.
An ordinance amending Chapter 165 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Massillon, Ohio, by enacting Section 165.01 to require that employees of the city reside within Stark County or any adjacent county.
Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Madam President. Second reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 167-2022 has received second reading. Item number 17 on the agenda, for anyone from the audience can come forward and speak on any topic that did not appear on tonight's agenda. If you wish to do so, please come forward, state your name, address, and topic being discussed. Seeing none, Councilman Lewis.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call.
Violen,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hearn King,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Sluse,
Yes.
and Snee.
Yes.
9 yes, 2 adjourned.